Hey guys, I am going live early because there is some breaking news. I'm going to wait for people to join the chat, but Prince Andrew really stripped of his title this time. Duke and Duchess of York, that was last week. Now that was actually 2 weeks ago. Now he is no longer a prince. And it's something that Virginia Giuffre's family pointed out, actually, after this happened. They said, well, why does he still have the title of prince? And a lot of people are also saying, why is he a free man? Why hasn't he been prosecuted for the crimes that have been alleged? So he's also been kicked out of the Royal Lodge, by the way. And a lodge may sound like a small thing, but it's actually a 30-room home. And apparently he hasn't been paying rent on it for a decade. But now he will move into, I'm going to butcher this. So to all the Brits on the line, don't hate me. Sandringham Hall. It's an estate in Norfolk. And it is privately funded by the king. So he's living for free again. Jenk in the house. Thanks so much for joining. Yeah, so I just felt like I had to get on the line and talk about this. This is about Virginia Giuffre. I just got a text from survivor Marika Chartouni, and she just said to me, quote, wish she was here. And that's what I felt as well. This is obviously a result of Virginia Giuffre's bombshell book, which just came out last week. First, it was decided that Andrew would no longer be the Duke of York, and neither would Fergie be the Duchess of York. Now he is no longer a prince, which is something that Virginia Giuffre's family raised. They said, why is he still a prince? And clearly the king answered, but he's still going to be funded by the monarchs in the sense that he's moving into Sandringham Castle, which is massive. It is a massive estate. 100 to 20. There are 200 rooms, by the way, in this place. It's actually bigger than the lodge. So he's moving on to a bigger home that he wasn't paying for. In the main house, there are 29 rooms. So don't feel so bad for him, but this is a really big deal. Finding out that he was asking his security team to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. I mean, that came out in the past week, and that was very startling. He's using his power, his access, his taxpayer-funded security guards to try to defame a young woman who accused him of assault. It's really shocking. He's moving into a cottage on the estate of Sandringham Castle, Armandria says. Let me check in on that and make sure that's right, that he's moving. I have to check in with my researcher. Or does he get the whole estate? That's a good point. But still, Prince, no more. I'm not sure that this has ever happened in history. Let me check, actually. Has anyone lost their title of prince in royal history? Now, this is obviously a Google search. Royals who gave up their titles. They have lost their titles. Now, this was his brother, King Charles, that decided to do this, by the way. Well, he claims that he volunteered, but it was pressure from his brother. And let's see. Prince Charles Edward in 1919 was stripped of his titles, Duke of Saxe-Burg and Gotha, for taking up arms against the British during World War I. Okay. Princess Patricia of Connaught in 1919, she voluntarily renounced her royal status and style of Her Royal Highness. I'm curious why that was. Right. I think he was a Nazi collaborator. Wait, yes, Nazi collaborator. That's right. I remember that story. Did not remember their names. He's moving to a property on the estate. That's correct. It will just be a property on the estate, but it is still being privately funded by the king, meaning He lives rent-free. He doesn't get the whole estate. The whole estate is massive, and I'm really happy that one of you brought that up. And yeah, Terry says he should get nothing. Some would say he deserves to be prosecuted. But I do want to point one thing out. So far, we've had a prince lose his title because of his connections to Epstein. And we've had the UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, resign in disgrace because of his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. A friendship seemingly the same as the one that Epstein had with President Trump and a number of other prominent people. And yet, we have seen zero action in the United States because of Jeffrey Epstein. There have been financial institutions that men have stepped down from. But in terms of public life, no one has suffered, even though these people are, they represent people. They're politicians. They should be held to the highest standards and account. Ian Hamilton says, speaking as a Brit, this is a big deal. The king is acting with authority here, and William has been pushing this behind closed doors. Tara, evening from Edinburgh, by the way. Great to have a Brit with us. I felt that it was a really big deal, and that's why I needed to get on the line. And yes, as Marika said, wish she was here. And she means Virginia. Virginia would have been really, really, really proud. Just think about it. For a whole decade, Virginia was treated terribly by the British press, by everyone. They called her a teen prostitute, made her seem like she was looking for a handout, disregarded everything she said. He said the picture of the two of them was doctored. Okay? She lived with all of this. And sadly, only in death can she live to see actual accountability. It's incredible. It really is a tragedy. It's a true tragedy. But Melissa King says, Andrew needs to be officially stripped of everything by Parliament. Yes. Another Melissa also says, Andrew should be investigated by Scotland Yard. Wouldn't that be correct? I mean, that'd probably be the right thing to do. If someone's committed a crime, what would happen if he wasn't a prince? He would be investigated by Scotland Yard. Yeah, so everyone is glued to the television in the UK. And again, Virginia Giuffre's family said, Duke and Duchess of York stripping them of their titles, not enough. He is still called a prince, and they got action. And to think the last royal to lose their title was a Nazi collaborator. And this is a child sex trafficker, an accused sex trafficker. So yeah, Ian said the British press can be horrible at times. Don't know if you're aware of the phone hacking scandal, but that tells you everything about our media. Oh yes, I am very much aware of the phone hacking scandal. That was a horrific moment in journalism in general, and it impacted all of us, even across the pond. We have to hold ourselves to high standards as journalists, and when that kind of thing happens, it is not good for anyone, even if it is Fleet Street tabloid journalism. But yeah, she continued to push, and to think that she saw this only in death is really, really, really terrible. I'm going to look at some of the press right now just to give you an update. By the way, I don't know if any of you realize this, but Andrew's 65 years old. It's amazing that he was able to get away with this. Decades of friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and still live a very entitled life, only until Simon & Schuster put out Virginia Giuffre's book, which she published after her death, would he spend the rest of his life dealing with this. Andrew Lowney has said that he thinks he'll go to jail. Andrew Lowney, he's been on the show, by the way. He was on our YouTube Live. Brilliant historian. He wrote a book on Prince Andrew called Entitled, which has not been published in the US, even though it's a bestseller in the UK, which to me is a total scandal. And that is because our First Lady, Melania Trump, is threatening to sue over it because he alleges in the book that Jeffrey Epstein had intercourse with Melania in the backseat of his car and then introduced her to President Trump. And so that is the allegation in the book, cannot be published in the US. Wild, I know. So this is a thank you, Jeff Jones. I appreciate the support as always. Yeah. So interesting. Ian Hamilton says he doesn't tend to push the monarchy for much. Yeah, I got the sense from Andrew Lowney that he's not a sensationalist. Oh, and you can read it on Audible or listen to it on Audible. Excuse me. It's good to know, and I guess, but it's too bad because it's publishers should not be threatened. But this is the world we live in right now. That's what we are dealing with. Yes, sorry, 1 second. I'm gonna go on CNN tonight. They're asking me to come on to talk about it, but can talk around. Yeah, I just have to tell them. See, this is what it's like in my day to manage all of this stuff. I'm doing so many interviews. For those of you who are watching earlier, I had this wild interview with a young woman who's running for Congress who just dropped off the call when I asked her about her recent arrest. Jank asks, why do I get the feeling that Andrew is being thrown on the bus for the sake of other creeps? I mean, I think you're right. I think he's absolutely being thrown under the bus. It is interesting that so many of the leaks are coming out of the cast, are coming out about Fergie and her long relationship with Epstein and how he bankrolled her, and that there's a lot more coming out about, that there's more coming out about just from the leaks tend to be related to the crown. But there is so much that the connections in the United States are really, really deep and abroad. I mean, he used to brag that he consulted Vladimir Putin, that he was obviously friends with Ehud Barak. He bragged about consulting dictators, African warlords. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein liked people to think, and perhaps it's true that he was so well connected abroad, and having Andrew as his pal, and being able to use him to get access to power was very critical for his sex trafficking operation. So as much as Andrew seemed to delight in the women around him and abuse them, that was really critical for Jeffrey Epstein to have these powerful connections. It's how he had access to all of these powerful people. Yes, Michael Wolff's lawsuit against Melania is brilliant. He's getting ahead of it. Yeah, he is getting ahead of I'm sure, a lawsuit that is coming his way. It's just wild how this is, public people are just suing left and right, preemptively. It's almost like the kind of injunctions you see in the UK. Someone said to buy Virginia's book as soon as possible because they may pull it or edit things out. Maybe, I don't know. I would doubt that at this point, but who knows? She really didn't, having known her, that was only the surface. I mean, what I had learned from being around her was even darker and worse. And if you can imagine that, there were more men. And I think the publishers were very selective about what they published to cover themselves, which is not surprising in this day and age. Someone said, I think Andrew is all about money. He took as trade envoy. He will make the whole monarchy grift at risk. Yeah, he was definitely a grifter for sure. He felt that he had no purpose. He wanted money. He wanted that lifestyle. And so that's what he did. He played in those really kind of sleazy relationships, selling access to the monarchy, and to the queen and to the parliament. It is really, really disgusting. But again, in the US, none of our public officials have paid the price. And I think we really have to think about that. Why is this only happening in the UK? Lightning Phoenix says, where there's great wealth, there's great crimes every time. I think it's the same thing with power. Power corrupts, absolutely. So we have to always hold it to account. And yeah, the book is hard. I can only do a few chapters at a time. Kathy Peterson said, it hurts my soul. I know it is really hard. What Virginia went through was really difficult. That's why I always wondered if she could even really ever write the book, because of how shocking and horrible it was. Like, I felt like you have to almost disassociate to be around her to hear it without it really like penetrating us. I mean, I obviously spent time with her and I know a lot about her life and her stories, but this is, yeah, it was it was hard to even be around. And not that, I mean, this is like secondhand pain. What she experienced was far worse. But no, Virginia wasn't killed. Virginia was suicidal. She was suicidal for a while. She was living a very difficult life. She was living in isolation. I spoke to her in February. She was not well. I even suggested that she come to the United States to spend time with her family. She never kids with her. They were her light. They were her reason for living. She battled those demons. She talked about it frequently with me, about how she was unwell, how she was mentally unwell towards the end. And this is the conspiracies about her being killed take away from the gravity of the crime against her and the impact that trafficking has on young women and all women, really, all people, all men and women. And I'm over, like, her brother has said over and over again that he spent 45 minutes trying to bring her back to life. She was not killed. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I had to just say that because I know from firsthand experience, I am not just another talking head. I actually know from firsthand experience of knowing Virginia Giuffre, of being her friend, of talking to her, of being traveling with her, what was actually going on. And I have to end these conspiracy theories. I wonder what Maxwell thinks. Well, it's not a good sign for her, but at the same time, like, President Trump seems to be completely disconnected from the fallout of all of this. He seems to be powering forward on making her life, I guess, more comfortable in prison. You could say that. And he seems to really not care that in the UK, they are taking this way more seriously than we are taking it in the United States. Guys, I wish I could stay on for longer. You're right. They need to swear in this Democratic Congresswoman, Adelita Grijalva. It's time. It's time they reopen the government. It's time they swear her in. Again, I have my doubts, though, about whether the Department of Justice will actually release files that show us anything substantial. I think it's going to be a lot like the FBI vault right now. Redactions, 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 redactions. I'm going to keep going with this conversation on my Substack. Please go to tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com. I'm going to be on with V. You know her, Katie Fang. We're going to talk about all this and more. It starts in literally 2 minutes, so I have to run, but I hope you'll all jump over there and watch. It's also free. Please become a subscriber, either here and there. It's free. Just hit the button, subscribe. And if you want to support my independent journalism, you can become a paid subscriber, and that helps me continue to do my work and continue to investigate and keep telling the stories that the mainstream media is ignoring. Okay. Thanks so much for everything you do. And thank you guys for your support. And yeah, keep pushing for truth. Okay. See you on my Substack.